This is one of those stories that sounds like a military legend, but it's absolutely true. We're going to talk about why one of the most iconic fighter jets in history wasn't just retired to a museum, but was instead systematically and completely destroyed.
So, picture this. A massive 100,000-pound industrial shear, basically a giant metal claw, and it's just sinking its teeth into the wing of a legendary F-14 Tomcat. And then it just rips through the airframe, twisting this multi-million-dollar marvel into nothing more than scrap metal. And the craziest part? This wasn't some accident. It was policy.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question. Why? Why on earth would the United States military go to such extreme lengths to completely obliterate one of its most famous and capable fighter jets?
Okay, so to really get the answer here, you first have to understand just how incredible this plane was. This wasn't just any fighter jet. For a long, long time, the F-14 was the absolute king of the skies.
I mean, the F-14 Tomcat, it was basically the peak of naval aviation at the time. And those famous variable sweep wings, they were a total game changer. So a pilot could, pull them back and just scream past Mach 2 in a dogfight, or push them forward to land nice and slow on a carrier. Just a technological masterpiece.
But look, as cool as all that was, what really set the Tomcat apart wasn't just how fast or nimble it was its brain. The tech packed into this thing gave it a kind of battlefield awareness that, well, frankly, it was terrifying for anyone unlucky enough to be flying against it.
So, check this out. Its advanced radar system could scan the skies and track up to 24 different targets at the same time. Think about that. It could literally see everything, everywhere.
And it wasn't just seeing them. The Tomcat could actually do something about it. It could engage and fire on 6 of those targets at the exact same moment. A whole squadron of enemy planes could just vanish in a single volley.
But here's the real kicker. Its Phoenix missiles could hit a target from over 100 miles away. An F-14 could take you out before you even knew it was in the same airspace. For decades, nothing else on Earth could do that.
All right, so we're back to the big puzzle. This plane was a legend, a total game changer. Still an absolute beast. So why shred it? Why not just park it in the desert like all the other retired planes?
Well, the answer has nothing to do with the plane's technology. It's all about geopolitics. It all goes back to a deal that was made years ago. A deal that seemed like a great idea at the time, but ended up having some really, really dangerous consequences.
So, rewind to 1974. The US and Iran, they were allies. And the Shah of Iran bought 79 brand new, top-of-the-line F-14s. But then, just 5 years later, bam, the Iranian Revolution hits and everything changes. Overnight, these two allies become bitter enemies.
And just like that, the Pentagon is staring at a complete nightmare. Their best, most advanced fighter jet is now also being flown by one of their biggest adversaries.
And that right there, that single fact, is the key to this whole mystery. It's why the F-14s had to be destroyed. The US had accidentally created this incredibly dangerous situation, and now they had to literally shred that legacy.
So you see the problem, right? It's this huge strategic mess. On one hand, the US has to protect its tech and cut off the supply of spare parts. But on the other hand, Iran has the exact same planes and is absolutely desperate to get those parts to keep them in the air. This basically created the perfect conditions for a massive global black market.
You have to remember, these jets are incredibly complex. They need constant work, a steady flow of very specific, high-tech parts just to stay operational. And with sanctions in place, Iran couldn't just, order them from a catalog. They had to get creative. And believe me, they were very motivated.
So where could they get these parts?
Well, there was really only one place in the world, the US Navy's own retired F-14s. All those planes just sitting out in the desert boneyards, they suddenly became the biggest prize for smugglers and black market dealers, all trying to get parts to Iran.
And that was the core of the problem. As long as those planes existed, even just sitting there in storage, they were a massive security risk. They were basically a giant open-air spare parts shop for an enemy. Every nut, every bolt, every wing, it was all a liability.
Faced with that kind of risk, the Pentagon realized there was only one solution that was 100% foolproof. Step 1, retire the whole fleet. Step 2, and this is the big one, you have to systematically destroy every single plane. And step 3, by doing that, you guarantee that none of those critical parts can ever end up where they shouldn't be.
And that's where we get to the really dark, kind of sad irony in the F-14 story. The very thing that made it so amazing, its power, its technology, was exactly why it had to be completely erased.
Think about it. The Tomcat didn't get retired because it was old and useless. It was basically executed because it was still too good. It was too effective, too advanced, and just way too dangerous to let it exist anywhere on the planet.
In a weird way, shredding the F-14s was the ultimate compliment. It was a testament to its own success. The military had to literally destroy one of the greatest symbols of its own power, all to make sure that power couldn't be turned back on them.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question, and it applies to so much more than just fighter jets. What do you do when your greatest strength suddenly becomes your biggest weakness?